that New York Mets fitted. Did Juan Soto sign yet or what?
It's all a matter. It's we're just crossing the T's, dotting the I's. 680 million, 690 million. We're just trying to figure out. It's small change at this point.
They're gonna have to cut into some of your salary there at NHL.com, my friends. That's what they're gonna have to do.
Right. Believe me, Uncle Steve can afford it.
What do you make of that Lightning game last night? I said it was like a 1987 throwback. Defense optional, no butterflies from the goalies. Like it was that second period was crazy.
I come out of it thinking that I don't know that the backup goalie they have now will be the backup goalie they have by the second half of the season. The movement, Johansson just didn't move well at all. And, so many of those pucks were not, they were pucks that he should be able to stop. These were long range shots. These are now, don't get me wrong. The Lightning defensively took some incredible lapses of judgment at times, but goalie's got to be able to stop some pucks. And goalie was not able to stop any pucks.
Last 3 games, 7, 5, and 5. His goals against is .522, and his save percentage is .856.
Yeah, that's not.
You win like that.
You can't do it. You can't deal with it. So I said this backup goalie position is up for grabs. I think I'm sure that they're going to be looking at Syracuse, seeing what they have, who could possibly do. I mean, 85% save percentage. Anybody can do better than that. You feel like so. I just don't see Johansson being on this roster much longer at this point.
Do they go to a veteran, Corey? Do they bring somebody up? I know Matt Tompkins was a guy that they had there for a while.
Yeah, I feel they've got some experience down in Syracuse where they could bring some guys up for some, for what in essence would be about a dozen starts if all things go well, And I think, I think some guys have been in Syracuse long enough to where they don't, they can come up and sit and be a backup goalie and understand. When you look at guys like Tompkins, that's probably what they grade out as is going to be a backup goalie or at least a goalie in a platoon. So understanding how to kind of keep yourself fresh during stretches of time when Vasilevsky's playing 6, 7, 8 games in a row, that's something they have to learn how to do anyway. So, and I just think they just need better goaltending from their backup than that.
I got the solution, and of course, this comes from my little brother. Get Nikolai Habibulin a backup Vezi.
I probably could do it. He could probably still block some. She could probably still throw away some shots. Yeah. He looked good. The other day when we had the 300 win ceremony for him, he looked pretty good. Like
he did look good.
Yeah,
he did look good. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, giving up 7 goals, like oh my gosh,
you can't do it.
So, like, your thoughts on like the Lightning over the last week or so? I mean, I feel like defensively they kind of locked in aside from last night, but it seems like they're really kind of finding their stride a little bit with the roster that they have here in 2024.
Yeah, 5-game point streak. They've got to get a shutout in there, some wins in there. Not a point. Obviously you see how big Pointer is when he's back in the game. He had 2 goals the other night and a goal last night. He's just, you just don't have. 50 goal scorers just don't grow on trees.
Right.
What was that?
There was just a backup music song. Okay. I had to turn it off.
Oh, okay.
So they want to give you. We need to really start working on getting some intro music, some WWE intro music. How great would that be?
All right, we can do that. Yeah. So, Pointer back in. It really the top 6 is a dynamic group. They really are. When they get all working together, they are a dynamic group. So, would you like to see some more scoring from the third line? Sure, but in today's hockey, you got to develop that. Connor, Geeky hopefully continues to. He gets a goal last night. He's got a very good shot as he starts to get more comfortable. In the league, I think he'll be that guy that can come up there and maybe give you some. Maybe give you some more scoring in the middle 6.
Yeah, I love that. I think the kid's tough. He looks big. He looks like a big guy.
He's
only going to get bigger, man. He's got some good hands. Yeah, he gives him a different profile. Where I don't know if there's any guys on their team that really give you what he can give you, and I wouldn't be surprised if they put more on his plate as the year goes by. But you're right. I'm glad to see Braden Point back. I like some of the new guys. I really like what I've seen from JJ Moser so far. He's fit in very seamlessly with Victor Hedman. But yeah, like what does this team need to do? Like if they make, and I know the cupboard is as bare as it can go, as we get closer and closer to the deadline, what could they do to fortify this team to just make them more of a threat come postseason time?
This is where you're gonna have to, they're gonna have to grow their middle six. They're gonna have to get. I think they have to get another forward in there that can give them some sort of another two-way threat and give them some sort of a scoring punch. Because when Point was out, you saw kind of how thin they can be. They're very thin. They don't really have that guy down there in the minor leagues that can come up there and give them some goals, give them some offensive looks. Goncalves did the best he could. I thought he played pretty well for the most part, but you need a little bit more of a natural scorer. So I could see them trying to see what's out there, trying to get the good thing about Julian Brisebois, he's really good at getting bargains. You find somebody that's end of a contract, maybe you get in a situation last year with somebody like Duclair, who's not very good defensively, but they needed goals, they needed scoring, and he provided that. So can he find kind of a really of a two-way player that's leaning a little bit more to the offense to help out that middle sixth, especially that third line? We'll see. He's gonna keep his eyes open, and they've got a little bit of financial wiggle room this year, which they haven't always had. So it's possible.
I want to talk some college football with you too,
Yes.
Corey. Let's talk some Florida Gators. I mean, they're playing Ole Miss this weekend. They host the Rebels there at the Swamp. I was one of those guys that I wasn't sure if Billy was going to last through the season. I wasn't sure if they were going to win another game throughout the season. But man, they've shown themselves pretty well over the last couple of weeks. You're starting to see some guys flip and commit to Florida. It's been a weird month for the Gators, and I still think the jury's out on whether Billy Napier is necessarily the right guy to lead them back to the promised land where they're a top 10 team and they're battling for not just national championships, but also in the SEC. What's your take on the Gators and how likely is it that they could pull off the upset against the Ole Miss Rebels?
I think there's a very good chance they can pull off the upset because their defensive line is really playing well.
Yeah.
It was excellent last week against LSU. He started playing the young guys, and the young guys have rewarded them. And these are the guys that really they should be building around, whether it's, on the offense with Lagway and the running back and, Sapp and, oh God, I can't think of the other kid's name, big tall pass rusher on the defensive line, kid out of Daytona Beach. They've got some really good blue chip prospects that are freshmen, and they got to go out there and play them. And, that's the big thing for them right now is just playing those young guys. Those young guys are flying around. They're generating a lot of excitement. They're making plays. They're going to make some mistakes, but really, in actuality, they bring a level of energy that team hasn't had in a long time. On offense, it starts with Lagway, the things that he can do. He's a big kid with a big arm. The running game that they've gotten better on both sides of the line as the season's gone on. So some of Napier's proof of concept is starting to come across. And last week, they were finally able to get that big win, finally able to get that win against an established team that hadn't beaten in a while, puts them that much closer to a bowl game. I think they can win their final two. They can beat Ole Miss. I absolutely think they're going to beat Florida State. So, I mean, you're 7-5 going to a bowl. Maybe you win that bowl game 8-5. That's a heck of a starting point for going into next season. The recruiting class is starting to show that as well.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to think that that's the conversation that we're having because it was a murderer's row playing all those tough teams. And
oh my God,
how are you going to beat these guys? How are you going to beat these guys? But they've really shown well. I want to talk about obviously the biggest matchup of the weekend with Indiana and Ohio State. The fighting Ian Beckles, as I like to call him, number 5 Indiana Hoosiers travels to the shoe to take on number 2 Ohio State.
Yes.
I mean, this is one of those matchups for Indiana. Like, this is a program-defining victory if you're able to come up with it. What is the likelihood that they can go into Columbus and win this game? We know about the 3-headed monster at running back and what Ohio State brings to the table with Ryan Day, but how do you see this whole game shaking out?
I certainly think Indiana's got a good puncher's chance. Attitude is such a big part, especially in college football. I think, how you carry yourself is really a good indication of how you feel like you're going to play. I think under Kurt Cignetti, I think that program, you can sense that their attitude is one that they expect to win games. It really showed itself in the Nebraska game. They had like the Fox, big noon kickoff. They had all this hype, and you want to know how a team like that at a time they might have been 6-0, 7-0. How they're gonna handle that. This is the first time all this stuff has kind of come there,
right?
And they end up hanging a 56 spot on Nebraska, and they just absolutely ran them out of the building. So they're capable. Ohio State has uber amounts of talent. You look everywhere. There's a blue chip kid. I mean, they're starting to figure out the offensive line situation since the left tackle got hurt, but the running game is exceptional with Henderson and Judkins. Is it Judkins? No, yeah, Judkins. Yeah, and I'm not as huge a fan of Will Howard.
Yeah,
at quarterback, I think he's okay. I don't think he's really the dynamic quarterback that they might need to go all the way. But I certainly think he's decent. He's battle tested. You can defensively. I think they got parts everywhere. Pass rushing in the secondary, linebackers. They really are a loaded football team. Their problem, I think, comes in the fact that how do I describe? I guess I describe Ohio State under Ryan Day like I describe Lane Kiffin. They're an A student that knows that they can kind of have fun, get drunk, and get a B- and be fine, and they're happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always thought that Ohio State should just destroy everyone, but under Ryan Day, they just don't. And I put a lot of it on him. I just don't think I don't think he's the type of coach that can really galvanize that group to be what they really to meet their full potential. Urban Meyer was that type of guy. Not to say I'm a big Urban Meyer fan. I think he's a heck of a coach, an amazing coach, a terrible human being. But
no, you're right. You're right though, because I look at this game and in a weird way, like it's tough to go against Ohio State at home, especially with the abundance of talents that they have. But if you look at the quarterback and the head coach, I feel like I trust Indiana's quarterback and head coach,
Absolutely.
and they're not as proven as Ryan Day and Will Howard, right? And that's a weird thing because usually when you have the establishment, you have a team with Ohio State, it's one of the blue bloods of college football. You would think that, all right, well, you'd hang your hat on the coach or you'd hang your hat on the quarterback, but you might give the advantage in a weird way to Indiana in both of those.
Yeah, I mean, definitely in coaching. I think Kurt Cignetti is a tremendous coach. I think he's a guy that he believes his team. He believes he has the best team on the field. That belief has trickled down to them. With Rourke at quarterback, you got an experienced guy, a guy that's very comfortable in the offense. There's a great staff at Indiana, led by Tino Sinceri, who's their offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. And they do give you that feeling like, wow, this is a special team. They're not just they've won, and the last few weeks they've won in different ways. They had to kind of grind out a ugly game against Michigan. I think they can play ugly football and win. I think they can play a wide open game and win. The thing is, the way we're talking about this, Ohio State can do all of that. There's nothing Ohio State can't do. They have the best roster in college football. They had the best roster in college football 2 years ago. They had the best roster in college football probably last year.
Mm-hmm.
They don't win. They just tend to not win games they're supposed to win. And until they win those games, it's just hard to really trust them to go through like they're supposed to go through. And it's they've already lost to Oregon. They're going to make the playoff. There's no way around it. They can lose. They can lose tomorrow. They're going to make the playoff regardless.
You think so? You think if they lose to Indiana, they'll make the playoff?
Yeah, there's four. I mean, there's four Big Ten teams that are going to get in. It's going to be Penn State, Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon. And I mean, you can pretty much, if things go as they're supposed, you can pretty much put together the playoff. It'll be the Big 12 champion, the ACC champion, Notre Dame, 4 from the Big 10, Boise State, 4 from the SEC. And which 4 from the SEC you don't know because it's a dog fight right now. You assume Texas is definitely kind of close to end, but after that, it's just, everybody else has 2 losses in the conference. But the way the Big Ten set up, it's so top-heavy this year. It's literally those 4 teams, and just everybody else is 3 games below them.
Do you think that so you still think Indiana's going to get in even if they lose to Ohio State, regardless of the margin of victory?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to take a team win 10, 11 games. You're not going to leave them out. I mean, for what? So you can throw in for who exactly you're going to put them in for. So it's just the way the Big Ten was set up this year. Those 4 top teams didn't all play each other. They all played one of those guys. So they were able to really boost up some pretty big records. And the rest of the conference is very packed in sort of a 4 to 8 win group, like there's Minnesota and Iowa and Wisconsin, and they're all like the same. They're all like the same exact group, So, yeah, I think Indiana's going to get in. I think a lot of that is politics too.
Yeah, it is.
Here's the thing: they start leaving out an 11-win Big Ten team. The Big Ten might decide they don't want to do this anymore. They don't have to. They're the only conference that does not have any obligation to ESPN. They've made $1 billion on TV contracts without the worldwide leader getting involved. So they can say, you know what, go have your thing.
Yeah, we'll do our thing.
Yeah, we'll go convince another conference like the Big 12 to join on our TV deals. We'll just take the Rose Bowl back, and we'll do, we'll have an AFL, NFL sort of thing.
Corey, you're thinking ahead, brother. That's why you're one of the smartest guys in the game. Follow him on all social media platforms at Corey Long. Corey, I appreciate you, brother. Have a great weekend, and we'll touch base next week. You're the best.
Appreciate you too, my man. You take care.